All right, welcome back. Hey, it's so good to have Matt Moss here for part two interview. So in this part two, we're going to dive in a little bit more deeper and get in, trying to get in the psyche of Matt Moss and how do we put more moss on our music. So that's what's that?
Moss on the track.
Come on. All right, man. Well, let's just jump in straight at where we left off. Left off in the last one. So a question about the new pop world and the pop music that they've got these days. Are you noticing any like current trends, or are you noticing I guess you've noticed that dubstep is is not really trendy anymore, but have you noticed any other what's that?
That's been gone for a little bit.
Yeah.
I guess the way I feel like a couple of years ago, the reggaeton and all that stuff was starting to get popular, and that those different rhythms. And then, before that was the four on the floor, just like lasted forever. So now I feel like we're in a time where like not anything goes, but it's just like a combination of new rhythms, even though it's a lot of the same kind of stuff going on. It's like there's a little more freedom right now, which seems kind of cool. Then obviously like the guitar has been entered, electric guitars entered back in the scene, which I'm always a fan of. And another thing, like, and you even did a video on it. It was a Justin Bieber song. What was the name of it?
Intentions?
Intentions. Just having a really, and this has always been the case, but strong motif as like a counter melody, riding behind the music that might almost mimic the melody of the verse, or maybe the chorus, or maybe it's somewhere in between. But because, you got to hook them from the beginning. You write your verse like it's a hook, then write your pre-chorus like it's a super hook, and then the hook comes. Yep. Now you're forced to really write a hook.
You're right.
And then like for a while, like what was it? You had like the chorus would be like on the riser or on the build, and then when it broke down, it would be like the post chorus or whatever. So that seems like that's fading a little bit, to where, and there's some more songs right now that seem like that are more traditional, where it has the verse, pre-chorus, chorus, but it's like we're introduced to this whole different format of song, or chorus, and then now we're going back to the other, and now we have both to play with, and it's kind of like some things are getting mixed up, which is pretty cool, So for a while, it's like, well, I guess it's going to stick for a little bit, but then it like now, it just, someone decided to do that once and it took off, and then now there's some hybrids of all that going on.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. I noticed I was listening to an artist on the radio. We're on XM. Radio really doesn't exist, but we do XM because then they can just send music that's popular or whatever. But I was noticing on a lot of tracks they actually have like speaking down low or in different parts, like a little phrase or something, which I thought was kind of interesting. And I realized the time length is getting shorter and shorter. Yeah. 2:30 is now the new 3, or 3 minutes.
Yep, shorter and shorter, and bridges are very small.
Mm-hmm.
So, or maybe just a breakdown of the chorus.
Yeah. I know, it's really cool. I always find it fascinating analyzing the current stuff, because that's where the new trend will go. And it's like, if you keep your I always tell anybody who will listen is, if you listen to the current stuff and you use that as your tool, then you'll always be up to date, because then, you're listening. Okay, let's listen. And I know that you've got phenomenal ears too. You're great at hearing. You're always like, well, if we do a song, you're like, send me a reference. And then, and I think we did one actually recently, and I didn't send you a reference. And then I sent you a reference after the track was done. And you're like, dude, I'm gonna have to throw this all out.
Well, but the cool thing is I redid the whole track, and it ended up being awesome. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
Or at least what we were going for, I should say. We'll let be the judge.
I know. And it takes so long to get a placement. So in probably years time, we might be talking about maybe that we'll do a video of how we got that song on some show somewhere.
On film and TV is interesting because you're kind of copying what's popular, whereas whenever you're writing for pop, you want to push it 15%. Whereas even with film and TV, you could push it a little bit because it might not get placed for another year. So there's some things to balance there. But I know when I started attempting to write like for I guess, major pop artists or whatever. I was just like, man, this is a whole different world, you know?
Yeah, do you want to tell us a little bit about that? What's the difference between the pop world and the film and TV, kind of like, and how do you put on different hats, or how do you treat that?
Yeah, sure. So like film and TV, I mean, it's a lot of times you get a brief, you know, they're looking, basically the idea, especially if it's a song with lyrics, is that they want a particular song that works, or that's what they're using as a, what do you say, like a placeholder or whatever, in their actual film, or, you know, the guy that's editing it, but guess what, it's too expensive, or the rights are, you know, just tied up or whatever. So they reach out to guys like us and, you know, ask us for some music. So then we literally write something that captures that vibe, or, you know, most of the time, 90% of the time, it's not just a particular song, unless it's for like an ad or a movie where they were literally using that as a temporary song. So they'll just be like, well, here's 3 songs, you know, that the supervisor or the director likes, and these are the reasons why. And sometimes all 3 be different, you know, that's another story. So they're all similar. Well, then you kind of have a direction of where to go, and you're like, okay, well, basically it's a pop song that has like a male, kind of a high male vocal or whatever. That's what they're looking for. Well, then you can roll with that, and then you can just be like, okay, what's popular now? Kind of have a track for that. Is it happy? Is it sad? Is it, you know, angry, glad? And then, you know, go for it.
Yeah, and so, and then you've had to take off your hat and like be like kind of working for a pop artist, or you know, you're trying to get inside the artist's head, how do you kind of treat that? Or like what like if an artist walks into the studio and says, hey, I want the next biggest hit, how do you take off the film and TV hat and be like, okay, well, let's create something new? And
well, first of all, nothing in the last video we're talking about, like, you know, you don't become famous because of someone else, but you become famous because of yourself. I guess what I meant by that is everything stems from emotions. You can't sing anything that someone's not going to believe. So you can't just put on a hat. You know, I mean, you can push things. Like if I'm like a singer-songwriter, acoustic guitar, and I have this song, and then some producer decides, you know, you could really make you famous as like a pop artist and make it all electronic. If I'm like totally down with that, I'm like, yeah, that's totally cool. But, you know, as long as I can still sing these lyrics because they actually mean something, it's like, yeah, of course, the song's great. Let's produce it different. That's cool, you know, and I'm down for it. Or, you know, maybe I'm not completely on board, but I get there because I have the story. And whenever I tell that story, I'm able to go straight back to the nostalgia or whatever it came from, what it stemmed from, and, you know, make myself or someone else cry or be happy or, you know, or whatever. And so that's where it starts. And then that's what you're looking for anyway. So like if someone comes in, they play 3 or 4 songs. Because if someone just comes in, I just want the biggest hit, like I'm just like, okay, I probably don't. That's probably most people that do that aren't ready to record, or it's really weird. Okay, but if someone comes in, it's usually like, well, I don't know if I'm that great, but I got these songs that were recorded. Like, oh wow, yeah, this guy's good, or this girl's good, or she could use some work here. But, you know, maybe they go through a few songs, and usually it seems like a lot of times it's the first song they play anyways, because they know which one's best or whatever. But maybe it's a few songs and you come across it, oh man, that one's got like the it factor or whatever, you know, like that one's it. And even if it's not completely done, or even if they're like, oh, well, I only have 1 verse in the chorus, it's like, yeah, but like you get super excited when they play that, you know, and you get chill bumps or whatever, you're like, okay. And then you can roll off that. The energy you get just from that first time they played that song will literally take you through the rest of the process, you know, all the way down to like the, you know, mixing and mastering. Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's most important. Then after that, it's just like, okay, well, I guess more of my job to make sure it's produced in a fashion that's accessible to a lot of people. If they're actually, you know, if that's what we're going for, is just for like to really, because everyone needs something, you know, it's just supply and demand. So everyone needs something that's going to touch them, you know? And so I think that when an artist recognizes that, they're able to lose a little bit of what they think they're supposed to be, to know that, well, if I go this way, it's going to touch more people, or it's going to reach more people. So I'm always about that. Like, I'm very much like, I look at that before I even look at, well, what kind of kick drums should we use here? You know, like, I don't care. Like, whatever. Like, go to splice.com, we'll find one.
I know. And you know what, you saying that is that's just so smart, because like if you spend like 100 hours on a kick drum and you went through 500 different kick drum samples, and then you have bragging rights to find the best kick drum. Well, there's only like 1% of the people out there are going to be like, dude, wow. You know, all the rest are going to be like, I don't like the song.
Whenever I'm doing like a pop track, I look through 3 or 4 kick drums.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
To begin with, and then I put one down. And then later on, I'll put in another one that maybe is completely in contrast, like for the verse. And then later on, I might EQ it a little bit. And then later on, there's a bass on it. You know, so like, it's not like I'm just taking stock stuff and just throwing it in there and be like, yeah, whatever, you know. But it's just everything is an organic flow. Like, I move real fast at first and I have an idea. I'm just like, okay, I need a kick drum and I need this pattern. So I'm going to you know, put it in there. Either I'm copy and pasting from somewhere and drag and dropping, or I'm going to play it on the keyboard, like with battery or Machina or something like that. And then later I can just change the kick drum, you know, but as long as it sounds pretty close to what I want it, you know, the kind of kick drum, well, then it's good. Let's go. Next, you know.
So actually on that note, trying to get a little bit more technical, but not too technical, for you and me who've been doing it for so long, it is organic. We're just flowing, you know. Maybe the kick drum's fine for now. We know we're going to come back to it, but we know that it's more important to go for this high synthy sound that we're thinking, or, you know, so it's just a flow thing. But how would, for somebody who's just beginning, what would you kind of break down without going too technical? Like what instruments would you suggest to start on? Like, would they, if they were to build a song, what's kind of a simple breakdown? I know it's kind of hard sometimes because we're always just flowing, but
well, let's take a style. So what style? Just throw one out there.
Let's do something that's a bit let's try pop right now.
So seems like everything's a plug because everything's made by someone, but like, go to splice.com, get an $8 subscription.
It's great.
And then pay another $10 a month to get Serum, their synthesizer. And if you're using that synthesizer, and so basically splice.com it has a bunch of samples, all kinds of samples. They have a lot of melodic samples, but I don't usually use it for that because I like to make those myself. If I do use it, I just manipulate them, or, you know, I'm going to have to change it anyways. But then you can download the app on your computer to where you can just drag and drop stuff. You can find and search for kicks, snares, hi-hats, all that kind of stuff. And so now you got like some of the top sounds. And then with Serum, you have a synthesizer. And through Splice, with that, with the monthly subscription, you can find more and more presets too for the Serum synthesizer. So now, okay, what else do you need? And I mean, you could do everything with Serum if you want. Now I just have a lot of different instruments, so I'll use different things to change it up.
But you start with maybe a kick, or is it where the idea starts from? Like if you're like, for a beginner, if they're like, well, I have a melodic do or something, so you probably start with a synth kind of thing and just dial that in, and then add drums and bass. What would be your
so my exact like beginning process is, if I had that in my head and I know the tempo I want it, so I'll play it, and then I'll tap tempo in Pro Tools. I'll set a metronome, and then I always do like a 4 or 8 count at the beginning of the session.
Cool.
Lay it down, and then you know, if you can't get it perfect, there's a lot of quantize options and many different, you know, softwares. So do that, and then maybe after that, I'd probably start doing the kick. A lot of times with a pop song, I'll just like, I'll build, like, if I start playing it, you know, it might be the intro, or it might be, if it's the verse, then I might be sparse, but I'm like, this is the hook, and I might just build a huge hook instrumentally up, you know, and then I can copy and paste those around and then just take things out as needed for like the intro and for like, you know, wherever else in the song. If it's the same progression melodically in the verses, well, then I could do the same thing, you know. I might just go down to a snap and a bass or something, you know, or whatever.
That's brilliant. That's really cool. So you'll build this huge big hook, whatever it is, melodic hook, drums, bass, everything under it. It's only like what, maybe 8 measures or something. And then you'll use that hook, let's say it's the chorus, you'll use that again, but you'll drop out something or you'll add stuff to it. And
exactly. I started doing that a lot. Yeah.
That's really cool. And you can hear that almost in when you listen to pop music now. It's like that. It's in those formats where it's like.
The other way to do it, obviously, is you make a hook, and the second hook, you're like, oh, let me add some more stuff. And the third hook, oh, let me add some more stuff. Or you can just add it all in and then just start taking stuff out.
Yeah.
I try to be careful, like, unless I'm like writing the melody as I go, to like not have too many like crazy melodies going on. And sometimes I do it anyways, and I have to take them out later, but it's okay because I was having fun while was making the track, you know, and they could be used later or not, you know. But some of those you have to wait to do until like the singer, like if you're working with a singer, because I work with a lot of people remotely, even on Zoom like this, where we'll come up with an idea and then I'll go away and make the track. We'll get back online, we'll write it together, or they'll write it, or they might have a song beforehand and I'll produce it. But after you sing on it, then you might want to put then like I can go put in a counter melody after the fact, you know.
Yeah.
And it depends, and then that all comes down to the artist too. What can they work with? You know, what are they used to work with? Someone might be like, I want it totally blank, you know, but with, you know, something to give it a vibe, like maybe just one really cool synthesizer and the rest just, you know, the drums and the bass, but nothing, you know, too crazy. And then they can just go with it. Other people, they need to hear a lot more. And then other people, they like to just write from a keyboard and then they'll give me the melody and then I'll just, you know, do the rest.
Really cool. Yeah. That's really cool that you're flexible and versatile enough to kind of do that kind of thing, you know. Can anybody contact you, or are you pretty booked up at the moment, or how would they contact you if
Yeah, sure. So you can go to mattmossmusic.com and there's a contact form there. You can also contact me at mattmossim@gmail.com.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. But just going to the website's the easiest way, because you can listen to things, you can look at things, read about me, and then hit the contact, and I answer, you know, people fairly quickly.
That's cool, man. That's really cool. All right, man. A few more questions. Here we go. So, okay. So, in order to get your music on the film and TV, you need like a connection or a publisher.
Right.
What would you suggest, or what would you say don't do in order to meet a publisher or get your music on film and TV? What's something you don't do, I guess, to a publisher?
Man, like probably, and you probably attest to this too, but 90 to 95% of my success have just come from networking with people in person. You know what I mean? After that, man, you can do anything remotely. I live in Lake Charles, Louisiana, and I wanted to make a living with music, and I get to, but it's not because I hung out in Lake Charles, Louisiana when I'm making the music I do, but I had to go out to, you know, different songwriting conventions, and just like you and me met, Steve, you know, I wasn't like, oh, well, Steve ain't nobody. Like, you know, I need to meet this guy. That's exactly who I need to meet, because you're the exact place I was. So
right.
we rose together, and you started to make some contacts. I started to make some contacts. We shared them. We became contacts for other people. You know what I mean? It's just like, just rise together. Yeah. And that's the fun part about it. So that's what I was talking about in the last video about patience, you know, is not just, I don't know what the term is, but basically don't bum rush, you know, everyone you think's important or better than you. Cold calling and stuff like that is fine, but I did a lot of that at the beginning and didn't get much response, you know. I wouldn't say like a lot, like, but I'd go on spurts where I was like, oh, I think I have some music that sounds pretty good. And actually my first library I got into like that, but it was one that maybe made me, you know, $100 in the last 10 years, you know, because it was just a very small, not, you know, oversaturated, just kind of, you know, in every single market kind of deal or whatever. And I don't even think it was like from film and TV. So the first library I got in, I talked about that last time. It was through a connection of someone like you that I met at a songwriting convention where I gained his trust. He thought I was pretty good at what I did, and I knew he was good, and he invited me to write with him. So really meeting other composers, that's so vital. Number one in my book is meeting other composers and making friends, and not just to get something, but, you know, it's got to be a mutual thing, you know. When you go to these conventions, you'll meet other people, but just give yourself time, you know, to get better. This isn't going to happen overnight. I pushed really hard though, you know, in the area of trying to get better, which I could have probably done just as good and, like, you know, slow down a little bit, you know, but yeah.
Well, yeah, it's interesting when you're meeting a publisher, because so many times at first when somebody says, oh, you know, you meet them and you shake their hand and they say, oh, I'm a publisher, all of a sudden as an artist, we're all like, oh you need to sign my music. You know, it's like triggers, because that seems like
right, elevator pitch. Let me remember. No, I don't remember anything. Hey, I make music. Like, I said so many stupid things.
I know.
I'm telling you, I can't even say them.
I know, it's hilarious. I know.
Like, this.
But it's like, but then you learn too that there's different. A publisher is just another person who is doing a different job than you are. You're a musician. Their job as a publisher is to get your songs on music. But they have a certain amount of connections. Like one of the publisher I think both of us work with has direct connections with the Kardashians. So I'm not going to send a country gospel track or something to them because they want hip hop, and so
that's another point. Let me cut you off.
No. No, you go.
No, but like so if you meet this dude and like all he's looking for is like oh gosh, what was I gonna say? But anyways, he's just looking for country music, which isn't very likely.
Yeah,
and like you write hard rock and you're nowhere close to like country, or just a complete different style. Don't start sending him that music. You know what I mean? Now, if you're like best friends with the dude, he'd be like, "Oh, this is great. I know, Bob Ross down the road. He's painting this music all day." No, and he'd be perfect. But if you don't know the dude and you just happen to make a connection and like you're like, "Here's some, death metal," but he's like, I don't know what to do with this, and this is actually funny, and this is a waste of time to leave.
Yeah, and
why am I going to listen to this guy again? Especially if you have like high volumes of emails coming in. But so you just got to be tactful. You got to, you want to be a marketer for yourself. You need to market yourself. You need to, and believe in yourself, and just, turn it around, look in the mirror, and be like, what would you say if you needed country music and someone came with you with some smooth jazz and was like, "Hey,
that's
look, I know this isn't what you're looking for, but look how good I am." It's like some of that's part of the process, though, because we as humans need that feedback. We want to be loved and known for what we do, But you gotta once again be patient to meet a lot of different people, because that country publisher might actually come in handy 3 years from now. You've kept in touch and just kind of done a little bit of small talk, and then now you're doing country music, and guess what, or whatever. So treat everything for what it is. I remember meeting a producer that I thought was like a pretty big deal or whatever, and I ended up doing some work with him, but I always, in the back of my mind, thought it was going to be so much more than what it was. So then I just kind of set myself up to, for this disappointment, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, because you're going to get disappointment. You might as well like gauge how much you're going to get.
Oh, exactly.
Hit the right music to the right person, and then get disappointed when they say, "Hey, this." Hopefully, they give you some feedback, like, "Hey, I really like what you're doing, but I just feel like you need a little more time," which has been told to me before. And the synthesizers sound a bit dated. And what's going to happen at first? Your stomach's going to go, you don't want to hear that. But then guess what's going to happen a week later? You're searching out the right synthesizers. You're like, why does this sound like that? So it's all to a means to an end,
Absolutely. And yeah, if you just got to constantly be evolving and changing and learning, because the day that you say, "Oh, I think I've got it," then that's bad news right there. All right, cool.
You say, "I think I got better."
Yeah, it's like it always makes you better. It's like, yeah, it's even dealing with different, like somebody saying, "Oh, the snare's too loud," and you're like, "Okay, cool," and turn the snare down. The snare's too soft. Okay, I'll turn it back up. Oh, now it's too loud, and it's like, okay, so maybe even somebody who keeps bouncing around like that, even it might teach you something about different types of people.
Patient again. If someone tells you on a Friday that or say it's like a client, it's not like a time sensitive thing. They're just like, "Man, I just don't know about this mix. I don't like this, that." I used to like want to go back in the studio right away and fix it and send it. But what I found is come Monday, they'll email you back and be like, "You know what? I don't know what I was thinking. This is great."
Yeah, that's awesome.
There's been, and that, that's just a life lesson. But
well, that's cool, man. All right. Well, we're running low on time, so let me ask you one more question, and then we'll go into some rapid fire. So how many tracks do you have? Like a goal of how many tracks you try and get out a month, or are you pretty much just flowing with what comes in, or do you have like some composers we know, they're like, "I got to get this man done. I got to," and they push themselves.
Yeah. So like, since I do have several hats, like I mix, I'm a recording engineer, produce bands, and I do film and TV. It's more like it comes in seasons, so I don't say this year I want to do 500 tracks, it's more of like I'll go and be like, okay, this next month, I know it's going to be slow with upfront money. So I want to it just depends on what kind of music it is. I think once like, what was it, for the Catfish show, I think I did like 25 or 30 tracks in a month,
Yeah.
But then again, I work in spurts too, because one day I might do 6 tracks and the next day I can't do anything. I might work on one.
Right.
And then like the next week I might do 10 in 2 days, because what I found, if you're doing the same genre, it's like anywhere between 5 and 8 back to back. I just got to take a break and do something else, or I don't know if they'll start on the same. I run out of ideas. I got to move on to something else, so.
That's so true.
But I try to, even in seasons like where I'm just doing music for other people, I try to do, I don't know, I might only do like one a week at that point. And if it's a song, yeah, I guess to answer your question, it's all over the place.
Well, yeah, and
goals at certain times when I know, okay, I can feel myself moving into like a different season. I just kind of go with the wind of that. I'm like, all right, so I need to like get this amount of songs, or like right now we're starting to work together some more again. And I know that we need to get some of those songs out, especially since it's,
yeah. And for you too, you're producing like pop artists and stuff and different artists, and those songs go for like what, 3 minutes, maybe more than that. And instrumental cues, they're like a minute 30 or a minute, so
yeah.
it's different.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. And then there are a whole different, like I was saying, you have to learn the mechanics of the song and, places for edit points. And then you mix down a lot of different alternate mixes. So it's a whole different kind of animal,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And you kind of have to learn that. Yeah. At first you just try to make a song and be like, throw it at film and TV, and they're like, no, or with the instrumental.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So here's some rapid fire questions. In the last part 1 of the interview, I asked you like, what's your desert island what's your desert island virtual instruments or plugins? Now I'm going to ask you like, what's the first thing on your channel? I'm going to call out a channel to you, like it's bass guitar or whatever. I'll yell out an instrument, and you have to tell me what's the first thing you go for, and in order. So, but just give me a couple. Don't on just like what you go for. All right, here we go. So, bass guitar.
Bass guitar. If it's me playing, nothing.
That's because he's brilliant. He's brilliant. You should see him. Look up his videos.
Oh, didn't mean it like that.
No, but you are actually. Do you have any solo stuff online?
Yep, I have some solo stuff.
Check it out, guys. You got to check it out. Okay, so you got. What about anyone else? What's kind of a go-to, an average go-to on bass?
Yeah, well, the funny thing, if I'm EQing like the Q10, it's waves, and it's like not even that expensive, but I just kind of use it on everything for filtering things out. And I'll take that back for me. Like if the kick drum is interfering, I might scoop out 60. But so that Q10 is my kind of go-to, just all around EQ for carving things out. I don't use it to boost, but to carve out. And then an L1 to limit,
Cool. All right. What about acoustic guitar?
Acoustic guitar. Again, I'll use the Q10 to take things out if I need to. And then I might do the Psy Q, which is the made by Sound Toys to boost to high end.
Oh, nice. Okay. What about drum overheads?
Drum overheads. Oh gosh.
I know it all depends. It all depends. But what would you like? I'm just trying to help like a beginning person.
Yeah, I mean if they're recorded well, and it's a good player and good cymbals, it depends on. I guess the Q10 would go there. Depends on the sound I'm looking for. I might actually take out a lot of the low information and low mids. But if it's well recorded in a pattern to where like it's picking up a lot of the snare drum and you want that some of the just overhead sound, then I'm just gonna take out certain points just with that EQ. But I usually don't. Yeah, that's usually all I do if I'm just right straight up on the channel. It's just gonna be an EQ. Yeah.
That's cool. All right. What about background vocals?
Background vocals, Q10. I like to use the C4 if it's on a group. It's like if I'm doing a bunch of O's, if it's like 10 O's, I'll put it all into an auxiliary or a bus, a send. And on top of that, I'll use the C4 because I can use it as compression and EQ at the same time. So like I'll just boost the highs on it, and then I'll just compress like maybe some of the low mids or just wherever the buildup is, because it's a real quick thing to do, especially if you're recording like 10 O's and then you're putting it, you know, all through a bus. Instead of EQ in each one, I'm just going to do it on the end, you know.
That's smart. Okay, what about lead vocal?
Lead vocal? Yeah, so that CLA2A, I like to use that. And then I'll either use like a pull tech to boost the high end, or I'll use that Psy EQ I've been using a lot. There's also this, I think it's called TDR EQ, which is nice for boosting high end as well. And you can like change it from British to English. Been using that a lot, and it was a free plugin actually.
Oh, wow. There you go. That's a little bonus for everyone.
TDR EQ. Yeah.
Say it one more time.
TDR EQ. Oh, 1 second, I'll make sure. Ask me another question and I'll see if it's
all right, so what about if you're doing 2 more instruments, horns and strings?
Horns? Yeah, it's called TDR VOS Slick EQ. All right, so you're talking about horns, you said?
Yeah, well, if you're doing live horns, I know we do.
Yeah, live horns. So live horns for me, it's all about the mic placement because, you know, you just don't want it to sound too brassy or too brash. Like, so if it's real close up, like it, and it depends on the horn, you just get a lot of that kind of like around 2 to 4K build up if it's too close. So I like to maybe offset it. It just depends on the, but I'll probably use some compression, like maybe the Renaissance. Is it the Renaissance or the R compress?
Yeah, I use that a lot. Yep.
Something that maybe doesn't color it too much.
Mm-hmm. All right, strings. Last one, strings.
Strings. I'd probably do the Q10 to EQ it, you know, and get some stuff out if the arrangement's not so great.
Cool. Well, awesome, man. Well, this has been a great interview. We're about to go into part 3, and I guess a separate. It won't be part 3. It'll just be. We'll just talk about how to get your song on the Big Bang Theory, but we'll talk about that next. But can anybody contact you, or how do you? I know you said it earlier. Is it just Matt Moss, or how's the best way to hear your music? Or
yeah, www.mattmossmusic.com. You can find me on Instagram as Matt Moss Mix, and then on Facebook, Matt Moss Music. You search that, and you should be able to find me. But www.mattmossmusic.com is the best way to contact me, listen to my stuff, all that.
Awesome. Well, cool, man. Well, hopefully, if this has helped anybody, please go ahead and like, subscribe, and awesome. We'll get a bunch more videos out that are really helpful. Well, thanks for being with us, Matt.
Thanks, Steve.
Awesome. We'll see you next time.
Later.